Hello, and welcome to the latest edition of Beard in a Lockdown. Today I talk to Dr. Matt Lee about revolutionary beards. I hope you enjoy it. It's worth sticking through all the way to the end. A very educational chat. Well, hello there, and I'd like to welcome to this edition of Beard in a Lockdown, Doctor of Philosophy, Dr. Matt Lee. Hello, Matt.
All right, Paul. It's a bit unusual hearing you call me doctor, but because no one really does, and I don't use it very often. But yeah, that's my formal title.
Oh, well, we may treat you and use that. Can you, just for the benefit of our viewer, can you briefly give us, that view of that beard? That beard. Look at that. That's a hell of...
Gandalf, as I get called walking down the street.
I've had people say I look like Santa, and they all think they're being really, really original.
Yours, because it's rounded underneath, it's got that nice sort of rounded Santa thing. Yeah, there was that picture I sent over to you of Mark saying this is not Santa. Not it's Santa. Like, there's a kind of element of that.
So, dear viewer, I've asked the good doctor to come in and talk to us briefly about revolutionary beards, because Matt is your neighbourhood anarchist, I guess, or communist?
Anarcho-communist. Actually, whenever my comrades ask me what my political ideology is, I tell them I'm a Luciferian communist. Which is probably about right, actually.
Gosh. Anyway, let's move on, because that's like 8 episodes, isn't it? Matt, you do a free university thing in Brighton. Do you want to tell us a bit about that?
Oh, yeah. I used to work in mainstream universities after I got my doctorate, which was 2005. I did about 10 years in mainstream universities. I used to lecture in philosophy at Greenwich.
Okay.
And, do all the other stuff academics do, write crappy papers and attend conferences and all this kind of stuff. But even there, I was doing sort of free stuff, because I used to run a thing called Volcanic Lines, which was this Deleuzian research group, but it had no funding. And we used to just hire the rooms and get speakers in and sort of use the university as have free space, get anyone coming in, and everything was free. And after a while, when the fees and stuff came in 2010, things just got really screwy at university. And I remember one of my students, who was a really good student, saying to me, "You're going to have to start calling us clients from now on and providing a service to us." And I was like, no, that's not fucking happening. That's not what I do. I'm a philosopher. I can only sit here and talk to you about philosophy, and you can, like it or not. I'm not here to teach you. I'm a lecturer. And it's one of the things that was changing in universities. It was from the idea of people actually having expertise and other people then joining them and sort of, co-creating their own expertise, which is what a university humanities course really should be. You ended up with this stupid reduction into teaching and all sorts of things. And so the university was just getting really screwed. So when I left, I was like, I really don't want anything to do with this, but I do want to teach or be in a philosophical position, And we had a little project that had literally just started in Brighton called the Free University Brighton. And so I got involved in that and started teaching philosophy free to people and started organising philosophy classes. And then about 5 years ago, it was we'd got it to a size in which we can now we can basically run our own free degree. We call it a free degree, and so we have about 400 members. We teach about 6 to 7 classes a week. It's about 15 people usually each class. It's been going for 5 years now, and we're the biggest free, completely free, no money, biggest free sort of university sector or university project in the world at the moment that's like this. So there's been quite a few other little ones that kick around and operate, and there's quite a lot of the things like the Ragged Philanthropists, the Ragged University, rather, in Edinburgh, and in Social Science Centre in Lincoln, they had a little free university kind of thing going. But we've been going for quite a while, and we have so I teach philosophy now. I run philosophy classes in a free university instead of inside some weird institution where everyone is paying and doing all sorts of strange things that distort what they're actually meant to be doing. So it just becomes a kind of like shadow of itself, which I think is what a lot of university is now. It's a kind of shadow of what it really should be. And it's a very strange place. Well, there's some good sides, don't get me wrong, but it's just, it's riven by forces and corruptions that people inside it can't really do anything about. They're just stuck in a bit of a shithole. So
5 years is a fair while to have been providing a free offer to, I guess, your community, your local community, or is it to
Yeah. It's Brighton centred. I mean, during this lockdown stuff, we have actually moved our classes online.
Yeah,
Moved some of them online. So some people, outside of Brighton, got involved a little bit. But yeah, no, it's focused at Brighton because we aim it at being not online. The classes are like in the evenings,
it's cool.
and Saturday mornings.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's for people who are local. Primarily. I mean, obviously you can travel down if you particularly wanted to, but it's better if you set one up in your own area.
Yeah. Cool. There you go. We're here to talk about beards as well. Can you tell us about your Luciferian communist beard?
Yeah, I mean, I had a beard when I was in my 30s, I think my first beard, and that was a brown one, one of those strange brown beards. I don't know what they're about, or black beards, or all these kind of things. They're just fucking weird, aren't they?
I spend a lot of time putting the grey into this every morning.
Exactly. I mean, a grey beard is where it's at, you know what I mean? It's got to be grey or it ain't. It's got to go home. So yeah, I mean, I had a beard in my 30s, shaved it off, had it a bit, it tended to be when I couldn't be arsed shaving. And then in my early 40s, I was like, I was having a last desperate plea to see if I had long hair. And I didn't. It took a few years to face up to that and shave it back off again. But I just letting it grow. And at that point, it really was, I couldn't be asked. I literally couldn't be asked anymore. I'd been, gone through razors. I'd bought a shaver. I'd done all these kind of things, clippers, all this kind of stuff. And I was just can't be fucking bothered with this anymore. And after about 5 years, it actually got to a shape where I was thinking, well, it kind of looks all right. I'll just leave it then. That was it. So there wasn't really any great thought in it. It was just, I'd done it before. I was going to do it again. And then it was like, oh, actually, I'll leave that. And after a certain amount of time, the idea of shaving it off was like, I really don't want to see my face. I know how old I'll be.
Yeah.
I've only got pictures of me beardless from when I'm like in my 20s. You know what I mean? So I'll leave it like that.
I'm concerned about my number of chins, to be honest. I've got that kind of middle-aged, weight thing. So I think I must have trouble. Yeah. So, and do you put stuff in it? Do you care for it, or do you just have a bit?
I'm actually a bit funny with stuff like oil in my hands. Whenever I have a massage, I have to go and wash my hands. If I'm giving a massage, I have to wash my hands afterwards, sort of thing. So I'm not a big fan of oily stuff. But no, the only thing I've got, I did dig it out actually, is my youngest Raven. You remember Raven? She got me this really lovely beard comb made out of bone.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's pretty cool, isn't it? I mean, so that's the only treatment I do is I use that, and I do give it a brush. Particularly, that goes in my bike jacket because obviously when I stick a buff on when I'm riding, it comes out. And it's all up here. It's stuck up here. So you do need to give it a bit of it. You're sitting down having a coffee at Lumi's or something. You need to give it a comb out.
Yeah, there is that thing of there's a whole maybe we ought to do that. Do a chat about beards and motorcycle helmets, and another time you get
another time. But bikers and beards, it seems to be pretty common, isn't it?
Beards and revolutionary politics. So I guess lots of us see these kind of revolutionary pictures of revolutionaries, and a very common feature is some sort of mad beard. And so I come to you for the input and the understanding of that. So what I see this phrase revolutionary beard, not a lot, I must admit, it's not everywhere, but have you an idea of what a revolutionary beard might be?
Right. So I mean, the big story around that is the Cuban one. And so obviously the Cuban Revolution, the bearded ones, as they ended up being called. I mean, for Castro, he says in a couple of places it was just a matter of convenience. It was a matter of like, this is a certain amount of time every day. It involves a certain amount of resources. If you've got an absolute minimal lifestyle, every tiny little thing can be a huge pain in the arse. And so, if you've got to sort out all your different bits of bodily functions, just being able to not deal with one it's obviously going to be just, that morning routine. You can be up and sorted and working.
Yeah.
And so it makes perfect sense. But yeah, they ended up, because of it just being a very practical thing, then having this kind of image that established,
Yeah.
they all had these long scraggly beards that had never been trimmed in the last 6 months. So they became known as the bearded ones. And there's this brilliant sort of element to it about how the fact that because they'd established this kind of like look or this style that couldn't be mimicked very easily, it was deeply difficult to infiltrate them, because you'd have to have someone preparing and living in their lifestyle, growing the beard and getting into that whole sort of shape so that they fitted, in order to be able to be infiltrated and have a spike. I mean, so it has all these other kind of strange things. But yeah, that's the main element to the sort of, the big bearded ones of the Cuban Revolution and all this kind of image, I think, that got attached to it. And obviously that's the Shea picture and all these kind of things. But it goes all the way back to Marx and Bakunin,
Well, before we go there, just an observation, my Google history reading, and I think I knew this even before the internet existed, that the CIA had plans to try and poison Castro so that his beard would fall off. They assumed such an identity with it that they thought that would weaken his stance.
Yeah, well, I mean, the only thing we can congratulate the CIA for being is deeply into blue sky thinking. Blue sky thinking that was so far, they must have been really freaking high to get to some of the ideas they had. They must have been using that LSD they had stuffed in the cupboards. So, I mean, yeah, there's a whole bunch of strange things in it. That cigars, they also were trying to attack the cigars at some point, and there was all sorts of mad shit they were trying to do. I don't know how viable any of those ideas were. I imagine people got paid well for coming up with daft ideas.
But you were talking about Marx.
Yeah, Marx and Bakunin. I mean, there's a kind of negative element to it inside the left, because bearded white men, basically, that kind of phrase, bearded white men, dominated the sort of notion of left-wing politics and the image of left-wing politics for pretty much a long time. And even now, even with Corbyn, there's kind of like bearded white men thing. And quite reasonably, people who aren't bearded white men get a bit pissed off with seeing so many bearded white men being in charge of everything. I mean, it's quite bloody reasonable, isn't it? If you just, but that relationship to beards, I think, has always been there. And I don't know whether it's, I mean, I imagine it has probably got like various different identity features. I don't know about the details and ins and outs of like Victorian bearded lifestyle that Bakunin and Marx would have been part of. So, maybe there was a sign, but to be honest, I think like a lot of bearded people, actually a lot of that is kind of secondary. I really do. In the end, think it's probably kind of an accident of reality. It's like, oh, it just got a beard. Blokes get certain age and get tired of fucking having to deal with it, and it's like, no, I'm old. No, I've got a beard. That's how it works. But as I say, I don't know enough about Victorian social mores to know whether there was a kind of clear sign. I think nowadays it does. I mean, I'm surprised at how weird people find it.
Yeah,
I find that odd. I find it surprising that people actually will, in the middle of a street, yell, "Oh wow, wicked beard," or "Oh, Gandalf," or something. And it's like, that's just fucking weird. What?
Well, I'm enjoying the willingness of some men to compliment men on their beards. I think
that's not a bad thing.
That's a new thing, and I use the British Beard Club card, which says "You have a fabulous beard," and I really enjoy giving them. I really enjoy giving them to blokes and watching their reaction. And that people say, "Well, do they think you're trying to come onto them?" To which the response, "Well, maybe they do," and some have, and that's interesting because what they haven't done is gone. Ugh! They've gone, "What, mate? What?" So that tells us something. But on the whole, people are just a bit bemused at receiving a compliment off a stranger, and then are quite pleased to have received a compliment of a stranger.
Yeah, I mean, I always find it an odd one. I mean, sometimes, I mean, to be honest, it's usually people who are out in the evening and a little bit, a little bit less inhibited. Let's say
a little bit Brahms.
Yeah, a little bit Brahms. And usually it's a kind of like, strange hooligan yell from the side of the street. But it's all, whenever I look around, because if someone yells at me, I look at, turn around and look at them and see what's going on. But they're always in a good mood and smiling and happy. And it's like, for some reason, I've just walked by you, and for some bizarre reason, a beard makes you smile. Whatever. Okay, cool.
Spreading good karma. Spreading good
karma. I mean,
inadvertently,
obviously.
But
I wouldn't do it deliberately.
I wouldn't go out to do it. But there are some people do experience the negative effects of having a beard, and you drew my attention to the Beard Liberation Front. Do you want to talk a bit about them?
Yeah, it's this thing run by a guy called Keith Flett, socialist historian in London, and they run sort of Beards of the Year. And I think it did definitely start with a kind of, if I look at the list, it definitely started with a kind of more lefty kind of clientele of who they were putting into the Beard of the Year. Nowadays, it seems to be a bit wider and a broader. Although I must say, I was a bit disappointed to see that the Beards of the Year were, like, to me, barely like a couple of months stubble.
Yeah.
The last come on, they seemed a little bit short and tidy to me, and I'm always a bit unsure about a short and tidy beard. I do think, let it go, let it grow.
Have it. But they've although they're kind of this sort of friendly kind of front. There's some stories about them standing up for people, particularly in the workplace, around having beards.
Yeah, I think the same thing probably applies in all sorts of situations. Is some workplaces have these really strange dress codes. Now, it might be different in hygienic situations. Very unlikely, to be honest. But in some very rare situations, there may be very specific reasons in which, okay, that's a bad idea having a beard in that situation. I mean, lighting a fire with petrol maybe is one of them, but some hygienic situations. But generally speaking, people have these very strange notions of what's professional, I think, in some spaces. And I think that notion of, like, you can't be professional with a beard, or you can't look professional. Obviously, it don't work the same in academia and politics, because they're those kind of notions are disrupted by hipster lifestyle and all sorts of other sort of ways of dressing. But yeah, in certain professions, it's seen as a kind of negative, and it's like that's. Yeah, I mean, obviously, white men with beards aren't a pressed group, but that kind of relation. But I do think it's important to basically say to people, actually, you can't really just turn around and tell people what they can wear and what they can't wear. Just like you can't tell hoodies or people with burqas or whatever. Get a life. Stop trying to tell people what to bloody wear or how to dress.
Yeah.
That ain't who they are, and that ain't going to really disrupt what they're capable of doing. So if you've got an issue with that, really, it's something you've got. And as I say, that kind of weird, clean-shaven, super professional thing. It's a little bit.
It's the Roman thing. See, I blame the Romans. Yeah. It's the Roman style.
I don't like that. I'd never liked the bloody Romans. What did the Romans do for us? Too fucking much. Piss off.
We could have done that. We could have made roads.
Yeah, well, yeah, if we give a shit.
That was awesome. Is there anything else you want to tell us about revolutionary beards?
I think there's a little bit in it. Revolutionary beards, you don't tidy up revolutionary beards. You're too busy doing the revolution to ever do anything. So they have to look a little bit scraggly. They have to have the ends mustn't be straight. They've got to fly about a bit, and the moustache has always got to be looking like it's just about to fall into your food.
Great. And on that note, for style hipsters,
yeah, definitely.
Thank you, Dr. Lee. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Paul.
Okay.